narrations mention that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba and Imam al-Hussein come rushing towards the masjid. Imam al-Hassan completes the Salatul Jama'ah for the rest of the people. They come and they see Amir al-Mu'minin in the mihrab. His beard is covered in blood from his head. Today I read in the Maktal that the sword that Ibn Muljim used, the place in which he hit Amir al-Mu'minin on the skull, it was in the middle.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم صدق الله العلي العظيم وآمنا به نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد Ahibai, tonight's lecture, to take a brief pause from our series on the traits of a mu'min. And in fact, tonight's majlis develops the traits of a mu'min. In that Laylatul Qadr is not only a night that defines our destiny for the coming year, but it is a night like this which defines our identity. It is a night like this that defines our affiliation of who we are, Shi'at Amir al-Mu'minin. This identity of being a Shia of Ali. For us tonight, it is matloob and it is expected that we are heartbroken more than on the death of a father. This is the death of this is the martyrdom of the leader of the entire ummah and the successor of all the anbiya, including Khatam, who we affiliate ourselves with. And tonight is a night where it is absolutely important that we seek ma'rifah of our Imam. Who is this Amirul Mu'mineen? If you want to understand Amirul Mu'mineen, which chapter do you open? Which book do you go to? Which scholar do you approach in order to understand a glimpse or get a glimpse of the azamah of this Mawla who you and I affiliate ourselves to? Ahibai, there is no better book than the Quran when it comes to understanding the azamah, the glory and the grandeur of Amirul Mu'mineen. When you have decided to take Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib as your Imam, then understand why you have taken him to be your Imam. Understand the lofty position that Allah Azza wa Jal has given Amirul Mu'mineen within the Quran, such that you hold your heads high and you never ever substitute your leader for somebody else. Imam as-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Companion comes to him and says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I am afflicted by poverty. The regimes and the oppressors, they come down on us from every avenue and we are not even able to earn a proper, decent rizq because we are followers and lovers of Amirul Mu'mineen. I'm in poverty, Ya ibn Rasulullah, help me. Imam as-Sadiq smiles at him and he says to him, "Oh man, you are the richest man on earth." He says, "How? Ya Ibn Rasulullah, I don't have food to feed my family." Imam as-Sadiq says to him, "You have something within you that is priceless. The treasures of the entire dunya cannot purchase." He says, "Ya Ibn Rasulullah, I don't understand what you were saying." Imam as-Sadiq says to him, "Do you love my grandfather, Amirul Mu'mineen?" He says, "Without doubt." He says, "If I was to give you 1,000 dirhams, would you give up your love for Amirul Mu'mineen?" He said, "Never." He said, "If I was to give you 1,000,000 dirhams, would you give up your love for Amirul Mu'mineen?" He said, "Never." "If I was to give you the wealth of everything within the realm of existence, would you give up your love for Amirul Mu'mineen?" He said, "Never." Imam Sadiq says to him, "You're the wealthiest person because you have that love for Amirul Mu'mineen. The wealth of the entire dunya cannot purchase it." I understand this love that has been given to you and that has been passed down on from generation to generation, because even heritage and even lineage plays a big role in the love that you have for Amir al-Mu'mineen, in addition to your own research and development and your growth. Tonight, on a night like this, Wallahi al-Azim, Qasam on the mimbar, if you shed a tear for Amirul Mu'mineen, do du'as for your mother. The poet says, "La adhaballahu ummi sharabatni hubb Haydar." May Allah never punish my mother who has fed me the milk with the love of Haydar. You are people who are distinguished in the dunya and the akhirah due to your faith. And it is up to us to live up to this distinction through our actions. Kalam is lot and our time is less, and we have a grand masa'ib to recite as well. Understanding Amirul Mu'mineen through the Quran. You have a ma'rifah of who your Imam is. Do not subscribe to a leader who you underestimate in his azamah. And the verses that I want to explore today are the verses from Surah An-Nuh. And in essence, tonight's lecture is understanding the azama of Amirul Mu'mineen, understanding the greatness of Amirul Mu'mineen through the seerah of Nabi Nuh, which is outlined within the Quran in Surah An-Nuh. And when you ponder over the Quran, tadabbur and tafakkur is something that is matloob within the Quran, and hours worth of pondering over the Quran is worth thousands or 70 years of ibadah. Say thousands of years in a metaphorical perspective. This is where tadabbur and tafakkur comes. When you put these ayat of the Quran together, it is as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, when you are reciting the Quran and you are reciting Surah An-Nuh, and when you are reciting the seerah of Nabiullah Nuh, inside the seerah of Nabi Nuh is the reflection of Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Which is why, if you want to gain ma'rifah of Amirul Mu'mineen, Rasulullah says, understand the Anbiya to understand Amirul Mu'mineen. Hadith khasa, inshallah, if we have an opportunity tomorrow or day after, we will bring that hadith and the sources, such there is no sort of ishkal. Ahibba'i. Underestimating the value of Ahlul Bayt and Imamah has been one of the greatest internal problems that Shias have faced. For hence there is any reluctance by part of ghulu or this or that. Everything is referenced and has a hadith from Ahlul Bayt in itself. We begin with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The verses that we are referring to, Surah An-Nuh, Allah Azza wa Jal begins by saying, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Inna arsalna Nuhan ila qawmih. Beginning of the first verse, the first half of the first verse. Ponder on the words of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna arsalna Nuhan ila qawmih. Who sent Nuh to the qawm? Ahibai. Allah, ahsantum. Allah, inna, yani we. Who is the speaker? Allah Azza wa Jal. So Allah is saying, I am the one who sent Nuh to his qawm, meaning that the appointment of the Anbiya, who selects a Nabi, who appoints a Nabi, is it mankind? Abadan la. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who appoints a Nabi and selects a Nabi to guide mankind. In the same way, this is a similarity between the Anbiya and the A'imma, a similarity between Nabi Nuh and Amirul Mu'mineen. In the same way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selects his Anbiya, who are guides to guide mankind, in the same way Allah Azza wa Jal selects his Khalifa and his Imam to guide the people. The proof for this is where, Ya Ahibba'i, you come to the Hadith literature, Hadith in which there is ittifaq between the Amma and the Khassa, between the Shia and the Sunnah. There is no single Hadith in Islamic literature that has reached a level of tawatur, yani absolutely no shak in its originality, in its authenticity. No hadith has reached this level of tawatur. Go and research. Even hadith of salat, Allahu Akbar, have not reached kayfiyat of salat tab'an, have not reached this level of tawatur as has the wilayah of Amirul Mu'mineen, where Rasulullah said, Man kuntum mawla, fahada aliyun mawla. You refer back to the books of even non-Shia historians, the like of Musnad Ahmad ibn Hanbal. You go to the Musnad of Sahih, to the Musnad of Ibn Majah. You go back to the Tariq of Ya'qubi from the greatest scholars and Hakim Nisapuri. They come forward and they said, Yawmul Ghadir, Rasulullah said, Man kuntum mawla, fahada aliyun mawla. What was the meaning of mawla if it wasn't master? Did Rasulullah appoint Amirul Mu'mineen? La, because the Quran says, وَمَا يَنْتِكُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Rasulullah does not speak anything out of his own free will, except that it is revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on Yawmul Ghadir, when Rasulullah says, Man kuntum mawla fahada aliyun mawla, it is the declaration of Allah Azza wa Jal through Rasulullah, and hence the revelation of the verse of the Quran after Rasulullah says, Man kuntum mawla fahada aliyum mawla, al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati wa raditu lakumul islam deena. Raditu lakumul islam deena. Today I am happy with your Islam. Which Islam? That Islam in which Ali ibn Abi Talib is your mawla. Imama, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. When was Imama? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Allah Azza wa Jal set this sunnah from the beginning of the creation of mankind, with the creation of Adam in Surah Al-Baqarah, when he said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. I am the one who placed the Khalifa on earth. Since when was an Imam or a Khalifa ever selected through an election? 1,400 years of bloodshed, 1,400 years of persecution over this debate of Imamah. Is he selected by Allah or selected in an election? If only the Muslimin referred back to the Quran and recited the Quran with tadabbur and tafakkur, millions of lives would not have been lost in this religious, so-called religious violence. And the first one who paid the price in this cycle of violence over establishing Imamah was Sayyidah Fatimah al-Zahra. Our responsibility to understand the Quran and read the Quran Leave ghayr, leave others, us ourselves. Understanding this concept of Imam from Quran and Hadith within our madrasas, within our homes, youngsters or adults, whoever we are. This is our identity and this is our legacy. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Verse 2 to verse 3. These again similarities between Nabi Nuh and Amir al-Mu'mineen. And then from here we will go on to see superiority between Amir al-Mu'mineen and Nabi Nuh. Time permitting, inshaAllah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say, Surah An-Nuh, continuing verse number 2 and 3. قَالَ يَا قَوْمْ إِنِّي لَكُمْ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. O people, I am a guide for you. I've come to give you a clear warning. What is the part of the message of Nabi Nuh? What was his message towards the people? Why has he been selected by Allah? For what purpose? The verse continues, verse number 3. أَنِ عَبُدُ اللَّهِ وَاتَّقُوا وَأَطِيعُونِي. Nabi Nuh says, I've been sent to you, the qawm, by Allah, so that you may worship Him. If you worship Allah, you will worship Allah in the way that I teach you. And in addition to this, Ya Qawm, not only is it matloob, not only is it expected from you that you will worship Allah, but in addition to your worship to Allah, you will obey me. وَأَطِيعُونِي, yani you will obey me, Nabiyullah Nuh, all Anbiya. In addition to you worshipping Allah, you have to succumb to the authority of the Prophet and obey him in every aspect of your life. You cannot say, I am going to worship Allah, recite my salat the way I want, and not obey the Prophet. Impossible. These two things are connected. Ubudiyyah, worship to Allah, cannot be separated from your obedience towards the Prophet in every aspect of your life. This is something logical, yani, from an usuluddin perspective. Nabi, when you say that it is wajib to follow the Nabi, is it wajib to follow him in some things of your life or in all things of your life? In all things of your life, tab'an, this is the most simplest things. You don't have selective following when it comes to a Nabi. He is a guide and obedience towards him in every aspect. Ahibba'i, the way it is wajib and the way it was necessary. Leave the word wajib. The way Allah commanded the community to obey Nabi Nuh, and it was necessary. They had no option when it came to obeying the authority, succumbing to the authority of Nabiullah Nuh. In the same way, you find that Allah Azza wa Jal commanded the entire Islamic Ummah to succumb to the authority of Amirul Mu'mineen. Whatever Amirul Mu'mineen says you have to do, you cannot go against him. Ajib. Where is the dalil for this in the Quran? Because we've established over here that what is expected from Nabi Nuh, the people, that they will obey Nabi Nuh. Unconditional obedience. The same thing for Amirul Mu'mineen. The proof for this is where? Surah An-Nisa, verse number 59. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ati'u Allah wa ati'ur Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Allah says, obey. A wajib command upon you. You have absolutely no option in this. Unconditional obedience towards your master. Let me say something between brackets here. When we say unconditional obedience and you have no option, the reason why we say this is because the master understands and the master safeguards your well-being and your success better than even what you understand for yourself. So it's not a dictatorial regime. In any case, Allah Azza wa Jal says, Ati'ullah, or you who believe, obey me, Allah, unconditionally, and obey the Prophet unconditionally. And in addition to these two entities, you have to unconditionally obey a third category and a third entity known as the Ulul Amr. Now we come back and we say, who are the Ulul Amr? If I come and give you a reference from the books of the Shia, you might come and say that this is something that is biased. So I come forward with a tafsir that is accepted by both the Amma and the Khasa, the Shia and the non-Shia. Tafsirul Mujahid, non-Shia, in his tafsir of the Quran for Surah An-Nisa verse 59, he says that Ati'ullah, obedience to Allah, wa Ati'ur Rasul, obedience to Rasulullah, wa ulil amri minkum, obedience towards the ulil amr begins with obedience towards Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. After the martyrdom of Rasulullah, was Amirul Mu'mineen obeyed or not? This is this adama of Amirul Mu'mineen that comes up from the seerah and the surah of Nabiullah Nuh. Moving forward, Ahibai, what is the consequence when you follow Nabi Nuh? You worship Allah and you obey Nabi Nuh. What is the consequence? Quran is very logical. Huh? Look at the consequence, the following verse. As a consequence of you worshipping Allah and having taqwa, wa ati'uni, the consequence for this is yaghfir lakum min dhunubikum. As a result of your obedience towards Nabiullah Nuh, Allah Azza wa Jal opens the doors of istighfar for you. He opens the doors of forgiveness for you. So the community of Nabi Nuh was told by Allah, if you want to gain salvation and if you want forgiveness for the sins that you have committed, then obey Nabiullah Nuh. And in the same way, we have within our hadith that the Shias of Amirul Mu'mineen and the lovers of Amirul Mu'mineen have a special door of istighfar which is opened up for them. We have within the hadith Biharul Anwar, Allama al-Majlisi rahmatullah alayh, he narrates this tradition that Rasulullah states, Lamma usriya bi, when I was taken up towards the heavens in this journey of Isra and Mi'raj, wa idh ana bimalakin min al-malaikatillah, I was in the presence of an angel from the angels of Allah, wa huwa fi surati Ali, his shakal, his appearance was in the appearance of Ali. Wa ismuhu Ali, his name as an angel is also Ali. Wa huwa sajidun tahta al-arsh, he is in a form of sajda, where under the arsh. Rasulullah says, fasami'tuhu yakul, in a state of sajda, this angel who is created by Allah, Rasulullah says, I heard him say in a state of sajda under the arsh, Allahumma li shi'ati Ali wa ashabihi wa muhibbi. Oh Allah, Ya Ali, Ya Allah, forgive the Shi'as and the lovers of Amirul Mu'mineen. And when you come today from your house wearing black, showing grief for Amirul Mu'mineen, what do we know? That Allah has created an angel from the angels underneath the arsh. Look at the position underneath the arsh. Look at the position, sajda, the closest position that you can be in regards to proximity towards Allah. Doing what? Istighfar. And now we have to ask ourselves, are we deserving of this position? La. We try and work and we try and work and we try and work. This is what is matloob. And where does this trigger come from? This motivation to live a life of legacy and to live a life of principle. The bedrock for this is your love for Amirul Mu'mineen. Because when you are deeply, insanely in love with your master, you will try and follow every action of your master. Which is why Salman says, even when my master Ali would walk, I would put my foot where he put his foot. My footprint on his footprint. This is what is required from us. The starting point is what? That love and that passion. Because when you know you have a master who is the embodiment of perfection and inspiration, the fitrah commands that you move towards him. We just need to understand them in the glory that Allah Azza wa Jalla has created them. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Moving on real quick. Qala Rabbi, Musa, Nabiullah Nuh is saying, verse number 5, Qala Rabbi, inni da'awtu qawman laylan wa nahara, falam yazidhum du'ai illa firara. Verse number 5 and 6. Nabiullah's complaint is a form of a munajat. Nabi Nuh and Allah. He says, Ya Allah, I preached to my community day and night. I called them towards haqq day and night. The more I called them, the more rebellious they became. The more I invited them towards haqq, the further they ran away from haqq. Alaykum bil haqq. What happened after Saqifa when Amirul Mu'mineen went to remind the people of his rights? The more he reminded them that he is the truthful successor of Rasulullah, the more aggressive they became towards him. The more they were reminded of the right of Amirul Mu'mineen, the more bolder they got, to the extent that they burnt the house of the wife of Amirul Mu'mineen. Sayyidah Zahra, what did she do? She called people towards the wilayah of Amirul Mu'mineen. What did the people do instead? They assaulted her until Muhsin became shaheed. Shame. But whose madhlumiyat is greater? The madhlumiyat of Nuh or the madhlumiyat of Amirul Mu'mineen? Tab'an madhlumiyat of Amirul Mu'mineen. So far what we have seen is mushtarakat, similarities between the position and the circumstances of Nabi Nuh and Amirul Mu'mineen. This is the maqam of ma'rifah ya ahibba'i. So, if you understand that there is a similarity between Amirul Mu'mineen and Nabiullah Nuh, I ask you, in the eyes of Allah, in regards to maqam and afdaliyya and superiority, whose maqam is greater, Amirul Mu'mineen or Nabiullah Nuh? We have answers from within the Quran and we have answers from within the Hadith. And let me explain to you how the position of Amirul Mu'mineen is even greater than the position of Nabiullah Nuh. Because over here in Surah Nuh, Nabi Nuh says to the people what? That if you believe and you worship me and you obey me, Allah will forgive you. Sahih. If Allah forgives you, do you go to Jannah or do you go to Jahannam? Jannah, tab'an, simple. If Allah forgives you, you go to Jannah. Nabi Nuh is calling the people towards Jannah. So Nabi Nuh is saying that I am calling you towards a place called Jannah. But when Rasulullah describes Amirul Mu'mineen, he says by you following Ali, not only are you following a person who will take you to Jannah, you are following a person who owns Jannah, the divider of heaven and hell. From the books of the non-Shia, Hakim al-Naysapuri states a hadith, قال رسول الله علي كسيم النار والجنة. Ali is the divider of heaven and hell. Ali doesn't call you towards the Jannah, he owns that Jannah. That Jannah that Nuh is inviting you is owned by Ali ibn Abi Talib. But nobody goes back and says, we did shirk and we did gulu and ma'adri shu. Allah has given this maqam to Amirul Mu'mineen. And so long as you understand that Allah has given this maqam, you know that even Ali did sajda to a Lord. Finished. There is no gulu. Aslan, the definition of gulu, linguistically, aqaidi, is not even applicable. But we live in a dunya. where we have misconceptions and we have judgments without the necessary ilm that is required. Ala kullin, what do we have with that? People of Iman, people of Taqwa, we are over here. One, Amirul Mu'mineen position, afdal than that of Nabi Nuh. In terms that Nabi Nuh called people towards Jannah, Amirul Mu'mineen owns that Jannah. Allah made him Qasimun Nari wal Jannah. More than that, how did Nabiullah become Nabiullah Nuh? What character, what sifat did he have inside of him that qualified him to become a Nabi from the Ulul Azam and not anybody else? We have again within our hadith in which there is ittifaq between the Shia and the Sunnah, and these are points of unity where we come forward and we accept hadith that are accepted by both schools of thought to a great extent. This is one aspect of peaceful coexistence. You find that we have hadith in the book Tawdihud Dalala. Tawdihud Dalala, a book which is written by a non-Shia scholar, comes forward and he says, again he describes this journey of Mi'raj. Sarahatan, this Eid of Mi'raj that we have, this Eid of Isra that we celebrate in the month of Rajab, is one of great fada'il and great merit. The Rasulullah within this book, Tawdihud Dalala, in this book which is narrated Tawdihud Dalala, non-Shia, he states a hadith by Rasulullah. He says, Rasulullah says, when I was elevated to the heavens, awhalla ilayh, Allah Azza wa Jal brought down wahi, communicated towards me, and he said, silhum, ask them. Who? The rest of the anbiya, because they were all lined up in front of Rasulullah. He says to him, silhum bima bu'ithu, on what basis were they appointed, or on what basis were they sent as anbiya? Faqal, yani Rasulullah says, fasa'altuhum ya ma'ashar al-anbiya bima bu'ithtum, on what basis were you selected, or nubi'tum, on what basis were you made anbiya? They all replied in the hadith and the books of the non-Shia. Qalu, they said to Rasulullah, nubi'na ala shahadatina bi la ilaha illallah wa bi Muhammadir Rasulullah wa bi Aliyun waliyullah. Meaning that Nuh became Nabiullah Nuh because he said Aliyun waliyullah. Adam became Safwatullah because he said Aliyun waliyullah. Isa became Ruhullah because he said Aliyun waliyullah. Why do you and I hold back when it comes to saying Aliyun waliyullah? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Aqidah, Usuluddin. This is Usuluddin from the Quran, and the manner in which to understand Usuluddin from the Quran. And when a person has this is ma'rifah, nuraniyah, that elevates you. This is what is needed to be with the Imam of our time. This is what Habib was. This is what Abbas was. People who would not abandon their Imam for the blink of an eye. For us, our jihad is that in our actions we don't abandon Amirul Mu'mineen. In our words, we don't abandon Amirul Mu'mineen. We don't shoot down the teachings of Amirul Mu'mineen. This is what is needed from us. There is much to say. We shall continue. Masa'ib is also great. Ahibai, the 19th of Shahrul Ramadan, this eve, is an eve that is azim. Heartbreaking, not only on the lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the dunya. It is heartbreaking for every soul that searches for justice. Every free spirit weeps on a night like this. And together with you, you have the Anbiya that are weeping in the heavens. The narrations mention that on the eve of 19th of Shahrul Ramadan, as we recount this Masaib of Amirul Mu'mineen, Ahibai, I want to take you spiritually to the city of Kufa. 2 nights we want to travel with our hearts to Kufa, tonight and on the 21st. And I want for you, if you close your eyes, it is as if you are sitting in the house of Amirul Mu'mineen. You are watching what is happening
and you were walking behind Amirul Mu'mineen to Masjid al-Kufa. May Allah grant all of us the ziyarah of Amirul Mu'mineen in the dunya and the shafa in the akhirah. 19th eve of Shahrul Ramadan, the narrations mention that during this blessed month, Amirul Mu'mineen had a habit of performing iftar every day at one of his children's house. One day iftar at the house of Imam al-Hassan, another day iftar in the house of Imam al-Hussein, another day iftar in the house of Sayyida Zainab al-Kubra. The 19th eve of Shahrul Ramadan was when Amirul Mu'mineen had iftar in the house of Sayyida Kulthum. She mentions that as the time of Maghrib set in, Amirul Mu'mineen recited his Salatul Maghribain. As soon as he completed the Salat, Sayyida Kulthum says, I lay down the sufra, and as my father sat, I put down in front of him 2 pieces of dry bread, a cup of yogurt, and some salt. He says, when I put this food in front of him, my father, Amirul Mu'mineen, looked towards me and he says, oh my daughter, do you want to prolong the standing of your father in front of Allah on the day of judgment? Allah. You and I, we cannot be like Amirul Mu'mineen. Maybe we can't survive on such a basic iftar. But on a night like this, I can tell you one thing we can learn from our Mawla is don't do asraf of food that is on your plate. Amirul Mu'mineen is saying, with 2 pieces of bread, 1 cup of yogurt and salt, I am scared what jawab I will give to Allah. What will you and I say when we throw away food? Food in our homes, food in the Imam Barga. Allah. He says to Sayyida Kulthum, do you want to prolong my standing in front of Allah? He says to Sayyida Kulthum, you should remove 1 from the 3 dishes that you have placed in front of me. Sayyida Kulthum says, I was about to remove the salt. Amirul Mu'mineen held my hand and said, I ask you by Allah, do not remove the salt. She went and she removed the yogurt. On a night like this, Amirul Mu'mineen had iftar with some dry bread and some salt. As the night passed on, Amirul Mu'mineen had a special mihrab, a special place of ibadah in the house of Sayyida Kulthum. He spent the entire night in a state of salat, sometimes in ruku, sometimes in qiyam, sometimes in sujood. He did this until the time of Salatul Layl. He recited the tahajjud within the house, and then he left the house to go out towards Masjid al-Kufa. The narrations mention that as Amirul Mu'mineen walked out, there were small birds that were in the courtyard of the house. They all came in front of Amirul Mu'mineen, flattering their wings as if to say, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, do not go towards the masjid. As Amirul Mu'mineen walked towards Masjid al-Kufa, the time of Fajr had set in. Amirul Mu'mineen stood up on the ma'adhana. The ma'adhana is the place of the mu'adhin where he gives the adhan. Amirul Mu'mineen stood up on the ma'adhana and began to deliver the adhan. The adhan of Amirul Mu'mineen was an adhan which was so sweet, and the voice of Amirul Mu'mineen would enter every house in Kufa. Having completed the adhan, it was the habit of Amirul Mu'mineen to wake up the people who were sleeping in the mosque. He went to each and every one of them saying, As-salat, as-salat, yarhamakumullah, inna as-salat tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Wake up towards salat, for indeed salat protects you from doing evil deeds. Until he came to the La'in ibn al-La'in ibn Muljim, who was sleeping on his stomach. Ibn Muljim had bought a sword for 1,000 dirhams and poisoned the sword with another 1,000 dirhams. The sword and the blade of the sword was dipped in a devastating poison. He was hiding the sword in its cover under his clothes on his belly. He was sleeping on his stomach. When Amirul Mu'mineen saw him, he said to him, "O man, do not sleep on your stomach, because
because this is the sleep of the shaitan. If you must sleep, then sleep on your right hand side, because this is the sleep of the anbiya, or sleep on your left hand side, because this is the sleep of the hukama. Amirul Mu'mineen is even giving guidance to the person who is going to kill him. Which Mawla is this? Ibn Muljim stood up, and Ibn Muljim sat up and looked at Amirul Mu'mineen, but could not look at him eye to eye, because he knew of the crime that he was going to perform. Amirul Mu'mineen then went towards the mihrab. Allah, Allah, ya Shi'at Amirul Mu'mineen. It is as if you are in Masjid al-Kufa, sitting outside the mihrab of Amirul Mu'mineen, watching history unfold itself. Amirul Mu'mineen went towards the mihrab and he gave the iqamah. Amirul Mu'mineen, this is the last Salatul Fajr in Masjid al-Kufa. Amirul Mu'mineen performs the takbir, Allahu Akbar, begins Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, recited the Suratul Hamd and the second surah. Amirul Mu'mineen then went into ruku, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim wa bihamdih. Amirul Mu'mineen stands up and goes towards sajda, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdih. At this point, the narrations mention that Ibn Muljim al-La'id came from behind the lines and removed his sword. He cried out, Al-Hukmu Lillah, Laysa laka ya Ali. The narrations mentions he removed his sword, فَضَرَبَهُ بِالسَّيْفِ عَلَى رَأْسِهِ. Ibn Muljim stuck Amirul Mu'mineen with a sword at the back of the head. This is while Amirul Mu'mineen was coming up from sajda. The weight of the strike and the intensity of the poison, the hadith mentions, فَوَكَعَ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. Amirul Mu'mineen fell down on the mihrab face first. He began to cry out, Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba. Jibreel descended down from the heavens, began to shout out, Tahaddamat wallah, Arkanil Huda, Infasamat wallah. Allah, Allah. This is Jibrail's na'i for Amirul Mu'mineen. Infasalat wallah, Urwatul Wuthqa, Kad Kutila Aliyun al-Murtada. The people in the mosque begin to cry, and there is shouting that is happening. The narrations mention that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba and Imam al-Hussein come rushing towards the masjid. Imam al-Hassan completes the Salatul Jama'ah for the rest of the people. They come and they see Amirul Mu'mineen in the mihrab. His beard is covered in blood from his head. Today I read in the Maktal that the sword that Ibn Muljim used, the place in which he hit Amirul Mu'mineen on the skull, it was in the middle of the skull, but the strike was so deep and the strike was so long, it came to the masjid, the point of the forehead where you do sajda. Amirul Mu'mineen sitting in the mihrab is covered in his own blood. Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba begins to hug him and cries. He removes the amama and he ties it around the head of Amirul Mu'mineen. The narrations mention that they lifted Amirul Mu'mineen from Masjid al-Kufa. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, Imam Hussein and Imam Hassan. Amirul Mu'mineen is resting on the shoulders of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba and Imam al-Hussein. They come out of Masjid al-Kufa, they're going towards the house of Amirul Mu'mineen. Allah, ya Shia, this is going to break your heart. As they get closer towards the house, Amirul Mu'mineen says to his son Imam al-Hassan, Ya Hassan, let me walk now. He says, Baba, you can't walk, you are not in a state to walk. Amirul Mu'mineen says, no, I want to walk by myself. Imam al-Mujtaba says, oh father, why the insistence? Amirul Mu'mineen replies, because Zainab is waiting at the door. Zainab is at the door. Zainab cannot see her father Haydarul Karrar in this state. I am Haydar, I am everything for Zainab. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you are scared for Zainab. She cannot see the sword wood on your head. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, come to Karbala. Zainab is going to see shimmer trample on the body of Hussein.
narrations mention that Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba and Imam al-Hussein come rushing towards the masjid. Imam al-Hassan completes the Salatul Jama'ah for the rest of the people. They come and they see Amir al-Mu'minin in the mihrab. His beard is covered in blood from his head. Today I read in the Maktal that the sword that Ibn Muljim used, the place in which he hit Amir al-Mu'minin on the skull, it was in the